Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie. Norse mythology tells of numerous terrifying and ferocious creatures, but few are more feared than the Draugar. These living dead can be found across literature and video games, from the works of Tolkien to the Elder Scrolls to God of War. But what if the Draugar didn't just scare the willies out of people in Bleak Falls Barrow, but actually existed in the real world? Let's explore. If you want more what if videos, check out our biggest what ifs playlist on the channel. Now get ready, it's time to ask the question, what if the Draugar were real? First off, I'd like to just clarify the issue of pluralization. The Draugar can be found in a number of mythologies, including Old Norse, Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian. In each of these places, both the name and the pluralized form vary. Since this video will be focusing mainly on the Old Norse depiction of the creatures, we'll follow the Old Norse terms. That is to say, when I say Draugr, it's singular, and when I say Draugar, it's plural. Now let's hop in. The Draugar are undead creatures believed to be reanimated corpses of those who died. Those who die after living a dishonest and immoral life are believed to be brought back as Draugar. They often return to live similarly greedy and selfish half-lives, either guarding a barrow containing their treasure or exacting vengeance on the living. They were often described as very dark black or else as pale as a corpse. This was a rather interesting take on the idea of punishment after death. Rather than being sent to hell or some place of suffering, those who had acted poorly would be forced to return in a half-alive, gruesome state. This results in a good deal of jealousy towards the living, which often causes them to lash out and attack. In the mythology, Draugar have superhuman strength and can increase their size at will to further increase their fortitude. They look and smell disgusting, which isn't surprising considering their decaying corpses. They also seem to retain some amount of intelligence from their previous life, as well as some memories from life which they use to protect their treasure and attack those who had wronged them. Some even believe that those killed by a Draugr are often linked to it and forced to fight for it as a spectral slave. So now we know what they are, but what would happen if the Draugar were real? Well, first and foremost, it would significantly change how we deal with the dead. A single Draugr, if it increased its size, could do huge amounts of damage. Historically, it was believed that there were ways to prevent a corpse from becoming a Draugr. It may sound strange, but apparently Draugarism can be avoided by placing a pair of open iron scissors on the chest of the recently deceased. It can also be helpful to hide straws and twigs among their clothes, and drive needles through their feet to keep them from walking. This is something that would need to be spread across the world. This would be an easy task in the developed world with social media, but it could spell disaster for less developed countries. If people didn't learn fast enough, whole countries could soon be overrun by Draugar. If the problem got bad enough, it could require the use of heavy explosives or even nuclear weapons in order to assure that they would not come back to life, or rather, unlife, if that's a thing. We would also, of course, need to know how to deal with a Draugr if we encountered one. Of course, for most people, the instructions would be to just run away immediately. This is because most people would have no chance against a Draugr. However, for those who were capable of fighting a Draugr, there are a few things to know. Luckily, you wouldn't need any special weapons, since Draugar can be injured with plain iron. However, in order to kill them for good, it's said that one must cut off their head, burn the body, and throw the ashes into the sea. Of course, if Draugar were relatively common, it would be important for everyone to know how to defend themselves in case they were in a pinch. Those unable to fight would also need to know the procedure so that they could help to burn and dispose of the body. Sadly, there wouldn't be a dragonborn or Greek demigod to save us, so we would depend on human soldiers to deal with these creatures. Governments around the world would employ Draugr hunters, specialized agents trained to locate and dispatch Draugr. It's likely that groups going out into the wilderness, like hunters or even film crews, would hire private Draugr hunters in case the undead decided to pay them a visit. They would likely rely largely on traps and ranged weapons to immobilize any Draugr they see, and then finish the job once they have been neutralized. Of course, as terrifying as they would be, it wouldn't be long before someone tried to harness the power of the Draugar. It's possible that certain groups and individuals would attempt to create and tame Draugar in hopes of commanding their own undead army. This would, of course, largely depend on the intelligence of the Draugar, but given their love of killing the living, it's likely that they would happily join any army that would let them kill as many people as possible. This kind of thing would, of course, be vilified in the civilized world, but it's possible that mentally unstable individuals, organized crime families, and even certain governments might use this tactic. This would be particularly powerful, not to mention barbaric, if death by a Draugr resulted in the victim becoming its spectral slave. If this was the case, it would make people even more afraid of the creatures. Not only would an encounter with a Draugr likely result in your death, but you could well be forced into eternal servitude under your killer. The White Walkers make good use of this tactic in Game of Thrones, bolstering their ranks with their slain enemies, and this would be very useful if you had an army of Draugar. And now we return to our question, what if the Draugar were real? Well, this would change the way we treat the dead. Religious ceremonies would likely go into disuse, with most people being cremated to stop them from rising as a Draugr. While everyone would need to understand how to deal with a Draugr, it would mostly be the domain of professional Draugr hunters, who would work both with the government and with private citizens. While this would likely be an effective way at keeping them down, there's a chance that certain groups would attempt to create and control armies of Draugar, which could pose a significant threat to the world as we know it. George R.R. Martin tried to warn us, but we just didn't listen. Thank you for watching Life's Biggest Questions. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe even inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below. While you're down there, let me know what you would do if you ran into a Draugar one night. Until next time, I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie with Life's Biggest Questions, wishing you the best of luck on your quest for answers.